Hello, everybody. It is Dean Z speaking to you from my basement. Today, I want to talk about a great question we got over email from Libby. She says, I'm 99.7% sure I want to specialize in a particular topic in law school. What role does identifying your particular area of interest play in the law school applications process? Does it help? Does it hurt? And if it plays any role, are some topics of specialty more favored than others? Is a great question, and it is one I hear or have heard in the last few weeks a number of times while recruiting. So I think it's something that is very much in the air for people, and I hope this discussion will prove useful. But let's break it down. I think there's really two questions here. One is, what is the extent that one specializes in law school? And then two, what role does that possibly play in the admissions process? So let's first talk about the room for specializing in law school. All law schools, I should start out by saying, in general, I talk generally about law schools in this video series. This is an area, the curriculum is one that, I feel funny about opining about other schools' curriculums. I really don't know much about any school's curriculum except for Michigan, but I'll try to keep this general, but take that everything I'm saying with that knowledge in mind, that I'm only an expert about Michigan's curriculum. Okay. That said, every law school that I know of requires at least 1 year of foundational coursework in the first year. So the courses that a school thinks are necessary for you as foundational building blocks may vary, but most schools have about 1 year's worth of curriculum that they're going to make you take. Some schools like Michigan let you take one elective in your first year. Other schools don't have any room for that. Some schools go so far as to have 2 years or even more of set curriculum. But I think one is sort of the modal amount of required courses. And as I say, the specifics might vary. So some schools may think you should take criminal law in your first year. Other schools don't require that. Some schools require property. Other schools don't require that. So there may be, like I say, variation. But in general, pretty similar. So that means that if you're going to, specialize, take a lot of courses in something, you're going to do that in your second and third years. Roughly, that's like 16 courses. You take about 4 courses a semester. Might be a few less if you're taking 1 or more clinics, because those tend to consume a lot of credits. Could be a few more if you, take very heavy credit loads or take classes with smaller numbers of credits. But roughly, you're going to have 16 classes to spread your wings and try different areas of the law. So when you think about that 16 classes, that's not that many. To take 4 classes in a particular subject would be a lot of classes, right? So it's not like undergrad where you are declaring a major and taking the vast majority of your classes in that field. It is much more freeform than that as a general matter. So all of that is to say, it is absolutely fine if you don't go into law school thinking, I know what my specialty is going to be. By the same token, if you do have a sense of that, that can be useful. That can be helpful to inspiring you and keeping you motivated across the course of your law school career. But there's not going to be, a real need for you to pick a particular specialty. And even if you go into it thinking that's what you're going to do, you may change, and that is totally fine. There's a lot of freedom in those upper level years for law school to play around with different fields. And the way law works, it's not like you are memorizing particular laws for particular jurisdictions. You are learning sort of the theory of how law gets made, how it all fits together. And so, you might, I will use myself as an example. I never took any upper level criminal law courses, but then I did a fair amount of criminal law work in my practice. I never took First Amendment, and I did a fair amount of First Amendment work in my legal practice, and so on. I did take a ton of international classes, which I think was 4 or maybe even 5. I never did anything with international law in my practice, but I think it still educated me in a way that I found very useful, and you can apply it to other fields. So there we've covered sort of the necessity of having a particular area of interest. There is no necessity, and the possibility to which you would get to explore it if you do have a particular area of interest, which is, somewhat, but you're probably going to take a wide variety of classes. Now, do you talk about it in your law school application? I think that is a very interesting question. Some people will have had a set of experiences that make them think that law school is for them. Has shown them that they are interested in legal issues. So maybe that's something from your personal life, legal things that you were involved in. Sometimes it's people's family divorces or lawsuits that, family members have been involved in, that sort of thing. Sometimes it's particular work experiences. You worked at a law firm and enjoyed it a lot. Sometimes it's volunteer work. So there can be a variety of ways you get exposed to something that you think you want to explore. And whether you should talk about it in your application, I think depends on the depth of your interest and the sincerity of it. So I think it is very common for people to have had some exposure to the law and think, well, this is interesting and I want to go to law school, but not necessarily want to pursue whatever the topic was that got them interested. But then sometimes people try to take that experience and shape it into more than it is, and it tends to fall flat in a personal statement. So, for example, people might say, my parents got divorced when I was young. The lawyer that was involved, was great, or the judge was great, and I was very intrigued by the way it works, and that led me to law school. But the chances are they probably don't want to, actually go down that particular field of work. They're not actually looking to get into divorce law. So that doesn't tell me that much about the person, and it isn't usually a great essay. On the other hand, sometimes people have much more sustained exposure to an area of the law that they actually know a bit more about. And that can be a good basis for an essay. So, for example, suppose you are a CPA, you've worked in an accounting office, you've gotten exposure to tax law issues, you think those are very intriguing, you enjoy puzzling those out. That could make for a more fully fleshed out essay, and that might be something you want to explore. So I think you really have to just look hard at whatever it is that is, motivating you to go to law school, if it's a particular field of law, and just think, how much do I really have to say about this? Is it a very sincere interest? Am I kind of reaching? And if reaching, don't worry about it. Just talk about something else in your personal statement. It is not at all necessary that you're focusing on an area of the law. Now, the second question that Libby asked was, do some areas give you an edge over others? That is a very interesting question, and it leads me to discussion of the one pitfall you potentially have in talking about a particular area of the law. Schools often have a wide range of things that they are good in, but might have a few particular specialties. So if you are talking about an area of the law that is a particular broad and deep specialty at a law school, that might be the kind of thing that an admissions officer thinks, oh, that's great. We really love having people who have this interest. We kind of have to feed this area of our curriculum, so this person will fit in great. But you have to be careful, because some schools will not have that as a field. And so if you are talking at length about how you really want to delve into the field of equine law, you have to be conscious of the fact that not all schools are going to offer that. And you may, in fact, get an admissions person who says, oh, well, they'd be really unhappy here then. So this doesn't seem like it's a good idea for us to admit this particular candidate. Likewise, you have to be careful, because if you're talking about an area of the law where one faculty member has a particular mark on the area, that person could be planning to retire, planning to switch their field of interest. Like, there are going to be things that the admissions office knows about faculty members that you are not going to necessarily know. So I would keep it more general if I'm talking about an area of the law, not focus a lot on one particular faculty member. I think that can be a little dangerous. Bottom line, if you want to talk about your particular area, make sure it is general enough to speak to a number of law schools and not get so specific that you end up shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. Okay, I think that is all I have to say about that. So now it is time for the grammar portion of our show. And I'm going to cheat a little bit today. It's not really grammar I want to talk about. I want to talk about a word that I remember learning in law school that I feel like people said like once a week in law school that I had never heard before. And that word is Draconian. Apparently, there's a guy named Draco, not the one from Harry Potter, different guy from ancient Greece, who was a little harsh, believed in imposing the death penalty, for example, for stealing cabbage. So when you say something is draconian, you mean it is extremely harsh. I just have always liked that word. I think it's a kind of a fun word. So, and I regret that I didn't know about it till I was about 26 years old. So now I am, making sure that anybody watching this feels free to toss around the word draconian well in advance of getting yourself to law school. Okay, that's all I have. Would love to hear your feedback and any comments or questions. Please put them in the comment section below or send us an email to law.jd.admissions@umich.edu and put vlog in the subject line. Again, thanks to Libby for providing an excellent question. And if you found this helpful, you might want to check out my admissions blog. There's a link below. Many thanks, as always, to Dustin Johnston. And wherever you go, go blue.